Hello, friends. Welcome to Trivia Over Tea, the quiz show podcast where we drink tea and play trivia. I am your host, Matthew Cook, and I'm here virtually once again with our scorekeeper, Carter Zanke. Carter, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm not sure who to root for between these two lovely contestants who've joined us.
Yes, we have two people who went to Duke University with Carter, one of whom is now married to Carter. So that might tip the scales in favor of one of them, but we'll see. But let's meet these two lovely people. First, we have Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric. Went to Duke. Just trying to break triple digits today. That's the goal.
Well, I think you read the right Wikipedia page to break triple digits. So anyway, thank you for being here, Eric. And we also have Margaret.
Hi, I'm Margaret. I'm the wife. And a fun fact about me is that I've never broken one of my own bones.
That is a very fun fact. I fortunately share that fun fact with you about myself.
Nice.
So hopefully we'll keep that streak alive for a while. At any rate, as with all of our regular episodes, we'll have 4 rounds of questions today, each with a slightly different format. And so without further ado, Carter will explain the rules for round 1.
Yes, so round 1 is our first general knowledge round, where we each get 5 multiple choice questions, and questions are worth 10 points each. So just guess the right answer and you get those 10 points.
Alrighty, Eric, you're up first. Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Okie dokie. Question 1. Which of the following is the name of one of the kittens in the Aristocrats? Sorry, the Aristocats. The Aristocats. A, Berlioz, B, Beethoven, or C, Brahms?
Oh wow. I do not know this one. I'm gonna go with C, gut feeling.
It's actually Berlioz. And that kitten was, of course, named for the French composer Hector Berlioz. The other 2 kittens were Marie, named for Marie Antoinette, and Toulouse, named for painter Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec.
Very good pronunciation.
Thank you. Yeah, it's almost as if I'm in school for opera. Anyway, yeah. Question 2. The Willis-Campbell Act, passed in 1921, tightened restrictions around medically prescribing what? A, morphine, B, cocaine, or C, alcohol?
I haven't heard of cocaine or alcohol being medically prescribed, so I'm gonna go with morphine on this one.
It was actually alcohol, believe it or not. The act went into effect 2 years after the ratification of the 18th Amendment, which instituted prohibition in the United States. It limited the number of alcohol prescriptions doctors could write, the amount of alcohol in each prescription, and specifically banned beer from being prescribed.
Interesting. Did not know that.
But what about the poor country singers?
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to ask somebody who was alive in 1921. I just learned about this the other day. So it's a fun fact. Question 3. Manfred von Richthofen was better known by what nickname? A, the Flying Dutchman, B, Die Jägermeister, or C, the Red Baron?
Ooh, I don't know who that is. Name sounds Dutch, so I'm gonna go with A.
He's actually German, and he's the Red Baron, the World War I flying ace. The Flying Dutchman was a legendary ghost ship doomed to wander the seas forever and never reach port. And of course, I made up Die Jägermeister. Question 4. Which of the following mountains in Washington is not located in a national park? A, Mount Adams, B, Mount Rainier, or C, Mount Olympus?
So I know Mount Rainier is a national park. I know there's Olympic National Park. I don't know if I've heard of Mount Olympus specifically, but it sounds like it's probably an Olympic National Park. And I'm pretty sure Mount Adams isn't in a national park. So I'm going to go with Mount Adams.
That is correct. Mount Adams is divided between the Mount Adams Wilderness, which is located in, which is part of the Gifford Pinchot National Forest, and the Yakima Nation. Rainier and Olympus are in Mount Rainier National Park and Olympic National Park, respectively. Yeah, Mount Olympus is the high point in that national park.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And finally, question 5. In human sound production, aka vocal production is what I mean, which of the following cavities is exclusively an example of forced resonance as opposed to free resonance? A, the nasal cavity, B, the oral cavity, or C, the chest cavity?
Could you repeat? I think you were breaking up just a tad bit. Was it
Lovely. I will happily
nasal,
repeat.
oral, or chest?
Yes, nasal
Okay.
cavity, oral cavity, chest cavity.
I think we had a conversation about this in
Oh, we may have, actually.
I remember just a brief conversation. I can't remember if I think it was nasal cavity, if I remember correctly, but could be wrong on that one.
So the example of forced resonance that's only forced resonance is actually the chest cavity. Since there is no route for air to escape, and the chest is directly attached to the actuator, is an example of forced resonance. The nasal cavity can sometimes be free and sometimes be forced, depending on whether the soft palate is raised enough to seal it off from the oral cavity, and the oral cavity and the vocal tract in general is a free resonator. So there you go. For those of you who are not contestants or Carter on this episode, I have just turned my video off because my Wi-Fi is not good. So we're trying to help the situation by just routing my audio through. Friends, is it better now?
Yeah, I think it's coming through. Although we're all suffering from the lack of your friendly, beautiful face.
Oh, well, thank you. Hopefully at some point you can see my face again, but it won't be on this episode. At any rate, when we last saw each other, Margaret, you were just about to begin your round one questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay. Question one. The northernmost point in the continental 48 states is located where? A, Maine, B, Michigan, or C, Minnesota?
Oh, okay. I feel like Maine is too obvious. I'm going to go with Michigan because of the Upper Peninsula.
It's actually Minnesota, believe it or not.
No.
The northwest angle is where the northernmost point is. You have to drive through Manitoba or take a boat to get there. Yeah. Question two. Robin Roberts has been a co-anchor on what morning show since 2005? A, Today, B, Good Morning America, or C, CBS Morning News?
I believe it is Good Morning America.
That is correct. She made her debut on the show as the newsreader in 2002, and she was honored with a plaque in Times Square earlier this year, commemorating her 20 years on the show.
Yeah, she's a legend.
She is, yeah. Question three. What 2013 single by Miley Cyrus is the singer's only #1 hit? A, Wrecking Ball, B, Party in the USA, or C, The Climb?
Oh, I can't believe she's only had one. I feel like you said 2013, right?
2013.
2013, that feels too late for it to have been Party in the USA. I'm going to say Wrecking Ball.
That is correct. Party in the USA peaked at #2. And The
What a
Climb,
crime.
Yeah, The Climb peaked at #4. And The Climb was like 2007 or something like that. That was like a country music hit for her.
Yeah, that was her early stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, Wrecking Ball. Question four. Which of the following national parks is not located in Utah? A, Arches, B, Mesa Verde, or C, Zion?
Okay. The Arches is definitely there. I'm going to say Mesa Verde. That sounds like it would be further south.
It's not further south, but that is the correct answer.
All right.
It's in Colorado, so further east. Yeah. Question five. This week, the sale of beer was banned at this year's World Cup games, which are being hosted by what nation? A, the United Arab Emirates, B, Jordan, or C, Qatar?
I was just talking about this before the call. I can't believe I got a soccer question and not Eric. This feels so unfair. It's Qatar.
It is Qatar, yes. Sales of alcohol in the tiny Middle Eastern nation are, in general, very tightly controlled. Don't worry, Eric, you're getting a sports question later.
Oh, good.
That is the end of round one. So, Carter, can you please give us a score update?
Looks like we have Eric at 10 and Margaret at 40.
All righty, and now it is time for round two. So, Carter, can you please tell us the rules?
Yes, in round two, you'll each get 5 questions on the same topic. Questions here are open-ended, and so they're worth 20 points each. If you get one wrong, your opponent can answer for 10 points.
Alrighty. Well, I'll just preface this by saying that on the contestant information sheet that I send out to all of our contestants before the taping, I specifically say that if the date that this podcast is being released happens to fall on a presidential birthday, that it's highly likely that that person is going to be the subject of the round two questions. And Eric mentioned that he read the Wikipedia page for one Franklin Pierce beforehand, and it just so happens that on November 23rd, Franklin Pierce will be celebrating his 218th birthday. And so you both are going to get 5 questions about the 14th president of the United States, Franklin Pierce. So Eric,
Oh no.
are you ready? I think
I
they're
don't know how much
I
I
think they're
remember.
reasonable. I actually think these are reasonable questions.
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So anyway, okay, Eric, here we go. Question 1. Franklin Pierce is the only U.S. president to be from what state, nicknamed the Granite State?
Believe it's New Hampshire.
That is correct. Before being elected president, Pierce was Speaker of the New Hampshire House of Representatives and represented the state in both houses of Congress. Question 2. Pierce studied at what liberal arts college located in Brunswick, Maine?
Was it Bowdoin?
Pronounced Bowdoin, but yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, Bowdoin College. He graduated 5th in his class in 1824. Question 3. Among his peers at Bowdoin was what novelist famous for writing The Scarlet Letter?
I think it was Nathaniel Hawthorne.
That's correct.
I
The
could have gotten that one.
the two were famously lifelong friends, and Hawthorne wrote a biography of Pierce while he was running for president. Pierce was the one who found Hawthorne dead while the two were on a trip together in the White Mountains. Yeah. Question 4. Despite being from the North, Pierce was a member of what political party that, in those days, was the dominant party in most slave states?
Was it the Whigs?
Not the Whigs, Margaret.
Was it the Democrats?
It was the Democrats, yes. He held Southern sympathies and believed that the abolitionist movement was a threat to the nation. And finally, question 5. Among Pierce's cabinet was what Secretary of War who would later become President of the Confederacy?
Ooh. Oh, the name's not coming to me. I don't know.
Okay, Margaret?
Is it Jefferson Davis?
Jefferson Davis, yes. Before the Civil War, he represented Mississippi in both houses of Congress. Alrighty, Margaret, are you ready for your 5 questions about Franklin Pierce?
I am so ready.
Alrighty. Question 1. In 1847, Pierce served as a brigadier general during what war?
1847. Was it the Spanish-American War?
Not the Spanish-American War. Eric?
Was it the Mexican-American War?
The Mexican-American War.
Oh,
Yeah. Spanish-American War was about 50 years later.
okay.
Among other
I should
things,
know that.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just said I should know that.
Oh, yeah. Among other things, he took part in the capture of Mexico City in mid-September of that year. And if you were listening to our previous episode of Trivia Over Tea, we explained the dubious nature of that war. At any rate, question 2. While he was traveling with his family as the president-elect on January 6th, 1853, Pierce's son Benjamin was killed in a crash involving what mode of transportation?
Huh. Was it a carriage?
What what kind of carriage?
What kind of carriage?
I guess.
Can I name a type of carriage is now the question. Was it a 2-horse carriage?
No.
Oh, okay.
Eric?
Was it a train?
It was a train, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was completely wrong.
Yeah. Train carriage.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I tried to prompt, but anyway, yeah, it was trains. Benjamin Pierce was the last surviving child of Franklin and Jane Pierce, and the accident thrust them both into depression. Jane Pierce did not make a public appearance as First Lady until 1855, nearly 2 years into her husband's term, and the president's performance was likely greatly affected by the tragedy. Question 3. Perhaps the most significant piece of legislation that he signed in office was what act that repealed the Missouri Compromise by allowing newly admitted states to determine the status of slavery within their borders by popular sovereignty?
Oh man, I definitely knew this at one point in my life. There's just no way I'm gonna remember it.
Fair enough. Eric,
Yeah.
do you know?
I think it was the Kansas-Nebraska Act.
It is the Kansas-Nebraska Act.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The Missouri
Darn.
Compromise had banned slavery north of the latitude 36 degrees, 36 minutes north, except for Missouri, which was admitted as a slave state. If not for this act, both Kansas and Nebraska would have automatically been admitted as free states, since they both lie north of that latitude. The passage of the Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854 led to a series of clashes between pro- and anti-slavery settlers in Kansas, known as Bleeding Kansas, and accelerated the country's path toward the Civil War. Question 4. Pierce's vice president, William Rufus King, was ill on Inauguration Day and was eventually sworn in while recuperating in what nearby island nation?
Was it the Bahamas?
Not the Bahamas. Eric?
I'm not sure. Was it Cuba?
It was Cuba, yes.
Oh shoot, I thought about Cuba.
Yeah. It was still a Spanish colony at the time. And King was down there recovering from tuberculosis and died from the disease just 45 days into his term. He is the only vice president to take the oath of office on foreign soil. And finally, question 5. Pierce was succeeded as president by whom? The last person to hold the office before Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, okay. The 15th president. Is it James A. Garfield?
No, not Garfield. Eric?
Just taking a guess. Was it Buchanan?
James Buchanan. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Both Pierce and Buchanan are criticized for their Southern sympathies, especially when it comes to slavery, and their roles in failing to prevent the U.S. from entering a civil war. So there you go. Yeah. I thought that went pretty well. Thank you for reading the Wikipedia page, Eric. That was
If I hadn't read the Wikipedia
We
page,
would
I
have
would
both
have known none of it.
Yeah. Oh,
serves me right for only skimming the document, assuming that I already knew how this worked.
well, and from a purely gameplay standpoint, you do. I think I updated the document to include like a what topics might come up section earlier this year. So you probably haven't read that before. But at any rate.
Yeah, and you would think that if you're married to someone who, you know, is on the podcast regularly, they would warn you, but it turns out no.
Hey, I haven't read it.
I appreciate your equality, Carter.
He's being very neutral and I don't appreciate it.
But Carter, you've been a contestant on the show, so in theory, you should have read the contestant information sheet.
Oh, yeah, that's a fair accusation.
The truth comes out. Oh,
Wow.
At any rate, that's the end of round 2. So Carter, can you please give us a score update?
Yes, the score is Eric with 120 and Margaret with 60.
Okay, now it's time for round 3. So Carter, can you please tell us the rules?
Yes, round 3 is a lot like round 2, but you'll get 5 questions that are on a variety of topics, and questions here are worth 30 points each, so your opponent can answer for 15 if you get it wrong.
Alrighty, Eric, are you ready for your 5 questions?
yes, sir.
Question 1. What interstate highway traverses Lake Washington by way of Mercer Island in Seattle?
I-90.
That's correct. The freeway ends at I-5, just a few miles further west. Question 2. On November 23rd, 1954, what major U.S. stock index closed above its pre-depression high, adjusted for inflation, for the first time since the market crash?
Ooh. I feel like I'm going to embarrass myself on this one. You said 1954. Was it the Dow?
It was the Dow Jones Industrial Average, yes. It closed at
Nice.
381.17 on September 3rd, 1929, a mark that would not be surpassed until 1954. Question
Wow.
3. I Feel Fine was what rock band's sixth #1 hit of 1964?
1964. Ooh, I don't know off the top of my head. Trying to think of 60s bands. I'm probably gonna embarrass myself again on this one. I don't know. I'm just gonna go with the Beatles.
It was the Beatles. Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Lucky guess.
The
Safe
previous
guess.
5 were
Yes.
I Want to Hold Your Hand, She Loves You, Can't Buy Me Love, Love Me Do, and A Hard Day's Night. Yeah, I feel like the Beatles is just like a safe guess with anything involving 60s
60s
music.
rock. Yeah.
Question 4. With its recipe patented in 1903, what soft drink is the second most consumed soda in the United States?
Second most. That's a good question. I'm thinking Coca-Cola is the first most. So I don't know though, because that feels like around the right time. I'm just gonna go with Coca-Cola.
No, it's not Coke. Margaret?
Oh, that would have been my guess too. So I'm gonna guess Pepsi.
It is Pepsi. Yep. Coke is #1. It was
Makes sense.
and Pepsi was briefly supplanted by Diet Coke, but regained the #2 spot in 2014 as sales of diet sodas plummeted due to concerns over artificial sweeteners and flavor. Yeah.
Interesting.
And finally, question 5. As a member of the Seattle Mariners, what right fielder was named both AL Rookie of the Year and AL MVP in 2001?
In 2001, Rookie of the Year.
And MVP.
I'm gonna go with Ichiro.
It was Ichiro Suzuki. He was the first Japanese-born position player to be posted and signed by an MLB team. And by the time he retired in 2019, Ichiro had amassed 3,089 hits in the majors, on top of the 1,278 hits he recorded while playing 9 seasons in Japan's Nippon Professional Baseball League. Excuse me.
Speaking of legends.
Yeah. Margaret, are you ready for your 5 questions?
Bring it on. I have to redeem myself.
Yeah. Question 1. What interstate highway provides the main north-south link through central Tennessee, running through Nashville and continues to places like Birmingham, Alabama, and Louisville, Kentucky?
Well, that's got to be our old favorite I-65.
That is correct. It runs 121 miles in Tennessee. It is also interesting to note that I-65's northern and southern termini are in the central time zone, but it crosses into the eastern time zone in parts of Indiana and Kentucky. Question 2. On November 23rd, 1991, what singer confirmed that he had AIDS and died the next day?
It's Freddie Mercury.
That's correct. He had been diagnosed in 1987, and he was just 45 when he passed away. Question 3. What school did the Duke Blue Devils men's basketball team beat in the Final Four in 1991 after losing to them in the 1990 title game?
UNLV.
That is correct. The University of Nevada at Las Vegas beat Duke 103-73 in 1990, but lost to Duke in the national semifinal 79-77 in 1991. And Duke went on to beat Kansas 72-65 to secure the school's first national title, first of 5. Yeah. Question 4.
Correct.
What muscular organ plays the biggest role in determining vocal tract resonance?
Interesting question. Is it the diaphragm?
No, not the diaphragm. Eric?
Oh,
Ooh, that would have been my guess too. What muscular organ?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Is the larynx a thing? I'm gonna go with the larynx.
It is a thing. It's not a muscular
I was trying to
organ.
think of what's a muscle in the throat. I don't know.
Yeah. It's the tongue, believe it or not.
Oh,
Yeah. And by forming different vowels with the tongue, the shape of the vocal tract, consisting of the oral cavity and the pharynx, changes. And that affects the resonance that you get. So there you go. And finally, question 5. What U.S. state has only 3 road border crossings with Mexico?
only 3 road border crossings. New Mexico?
That is correct. They are
Oh.
all with the state of Chihuahua. Yeah, because it has the shortest of the 4, the shortest border with Mexico of the 4 states that touch Mexico.
Yeah.
Alrighty, that's the end of round 3. So Carter, can you please give us a score update?
We have Eric at 240 and Margaret at 195.
Okay, now it is time for round 4. So Carter, can you please tell us the rules?
Yes, round 4 is our showdown, where you'll each get the same 3 questions, and questions here are worth 40 points each. So I'll ask you to make note of your answers in some way, whether that's writing it down or typing on your phone, whatever you'd like to do.
Okie dokie. Eric, Margaret, are we ready?
Not quite yet. Give me a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna write on my phone.
Yeah, I'm playing at my notes app. All right, I am ready.
Ready? Eric, we ready?
So close. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. I'm just gonna put it in the blank text. All right. Yeah.
Ready? Okay. Question 1. What French mathematician, physicist, and philosopher had an intense religious experience in a dream in 1654, which he documented in a writing called The Memorial? This was something really interesting that I learned this week. I had no idea. And this is definitely not a name that I had thought about since like high school physics, I think. That's probably where I heard his name. I don't know. At any rate.
So it's a name that we might have heard of, which is a clue in itself.
Yeah, it's a name that you've probably heard of. Yeah.
Great. I'm going to absolutely humiliate myself by naming somebody who was probably centuries later.
Me too. I don't know.
Okay. Well, Eric, who did you come up with?
I said Descartes, but I think he's like a philosopher instead.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that's wrong.
Margaret?
I probably also came up with just a philosopher. I said Voltaire.
Both wrong. This was Blaise Pascal.
Oh, I have heard of him.
Yeah. It was after this dream that he began writing his first major, or that he began, oh gosh, that was poorly written on my part. It was after this dream that he began writing his first major writing on religion, the Provincial Papers. I could have worded that much better.
That's okay. We forgive you.
Thank you. That's very sad. Anyway, yeah, Pascal. Question 2. During how many presidents' administrations was Nancy Pelosi Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives? Do we have answers? Eric?
I'm gonna guess 3.
Okay. Margaret?
I wrote down 4.
It was 4. Yeah.
Yes.
When she became speaker for the first time in 2007, George W. Bush was still president. And then she was speaker for the first 2 years of Obama's term. And then when she regained the speakership in 2019, you know who was president. And then the last 2 years were, of course, with President Biden. So there you go. 4. Excuse me. 4 people. And finally, question 3. What U.S. national park contains Triple Divide Peak, where water on the west side drains to the Pacific, water on the south and east side drains to the Atlantic via the Gulf of Mexico, and water on the north side drains to the Arctic Ocean via the Hudson Bay? Okay. Eric, what is your answer?
I went with Rocky Mountain National Park.
Okay. Margaret?
I had a really dumb moment and I wrote down Great Smoky Mountains thinking Rocky Mountains, but I did write down the Smokies.
Okay. Well,
Which I
even
know
if
is
you had
wrong.
written Rocky Mountain National Park, it would have been wrong.
Oh, good.
So this is Glacier National Park in Montana.
Oh,
At 8,025 feet, Triple Divide Peak is the hydrological apex of the North American continent.
very
So there
neat.
you go.
Interesting.
Well, that's the end of the game. So Carter, can you please give us the final score?
Looks like we have Eric with 240 points and Margaret with 235.
Wow. Eric, you have won. Congratulations. Do you have anything that you would like to say?
Thanks for having me, and I just want to say hi, Mom. So yeah, appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, that was beautiful, Eric. Yeah. Thank you so much for
Can
being
I
on.
also say
Go
hi
for
to
it.
Eric's mom?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah. Let's all say hi to Eric's
hi,
mom.
Mrs. Warbell.
Hi, Mrs. Warble. You don't know me, but hi.
I'll pass it along.
Yeah. Thank you. Carter, do you want to say hi to Eric's mom?
Hello.
Fantastic. Well, that's our show for this week, folks. Thank you, Eric and Margaret, for being on the show today, as well as Carter Zenke for being our scorekeeper, and Mason Cook for composing the music. All of today's questions were written by me. Thanks to, well, anyway, we don't need to go into that right now. And thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to Trivia Over Tea on your favorite podcast app, and leave us a review if you enjoyed it. And check out our Facebook and Instagram pages, also at Trivia Over Tea, as well as our Twitter account. I think we still have our Twitter account, Lord knows at this point, which is at Trivia Over Tea. I'm not on Twitter, so I don't pay attention to that. And tune in next week when we'll have 2 new contestants and 33, or 2 weeks from now when we'll have 2 new contestants and 33 more fantastic questions. So thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks.